So back in 2024, the most advanced artificial intelligence models on Earth were fed a 600-year-old book.
Right, the infamous Voynich manuscript.
Yeah, MS-408. And we are talking about, supercomputers here, systems capable of processing billions of parameters a second.
Oh, totally. The kind of tech that can translate dead languages or, like, crack complex cryptographic hashes is just a background task.
Exactly. So they give these systems high-resolution scans of this bizarre ancient parchment, and it's filled with these looping, completely unreadable
And
glyphs.
the weird drawings, too.
Yeah, the drawings of weird plants and naked women bathing in pools of green liquid, and the machines just completely
Yeah,
cracked.
we just hit a wall.
They completely failed. They couldn't find a single recognizable linguistic pattern in the whole
Which
text.
is crazy for an AI.
Right. They
Yeah.
tried mapping it to Hebrew, Latin, Arabic, ancient Turkish, nothing. The ultimate consensus from the absolute bleeding edge of modern technology was that this book was either an elaborate, meaningless hoax or a transmission from an alien dimension.
I mean, that is the absolute definition of an unsolvable historical mystery. When the most sophisticated pattern recognition engines in human history just throw up their hands, you naturally assume the puzzle itself is broken.
But then, a month ago, in May 2026, an independent researcher named R.Lüth published a groundbreaking paper claiming he had finally cracked it.
And he didn't use AI to do it.
No, that's the wild part. He didn't use massive server farms or next-generation neural networks. He used his own eyes. And he argues, with incredible evidence, that the manuscript isn't a magical spellbook or a hoax at all.
It's a completely different paradigm.
Yeah, so today we're doing a deep dive into Lüth's research to give you the ultimate shortcut to being the most well-informed person in the room regarding the Voynich manuscript. We're going to show you how looking past our modern technological assumptions and actually examining the raw data right in front of us can reveal these amazing hidden human truths.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the fundamental flaw in the last century of Voynich research, and this includes all those recent AI attempts, is that everyone has been asking what language it is.
Right.
But to solve a puzzle of this magnitude, you have to shift your focus from the object to the author. You have to ask who wrote it. Because the psychology of the creator basically dictates the architecture of the code.
Wait, let's unpack this. Because the sources point a massive, glowing neon arrow at a very specific individual, a guy named Giovanni Jacopo Antonio della Fontana.
Fontana, right?
Born in Venice around 1395, he is like the ultimate early Renaissance polymath. He gets his liberal arts degree from the University of Padua in 1418, then his medical doctorate in 1421.
He was a physician for the Venetian army at one point, I believe.
He was, but he's not just a doctor. He's a military engineer, a botanist, an alchemist, and honestly a bit of a theatrical showman.
A showman, yeah.
He designs torpedoes, siege engines, water clocks. He even creates the world's first known magic lantern to project images onto walls to terrify audiences.
Fontana is basically a Renaissance Tony Stark. A genius building wild tech who encrypted his hard drive so his competitors couldn't steal his blueprints.
That is the perfect way to put it.
And crucially for our mystery, he was a master cryptographer. And we aren't just guessing about his capabilities here.
Right. We
No.
actually have the receipts.
Exactly. We have his known, verified manuscripts, like the Suritum, which he wrote in the 1420s and 30s. He wrote those treatises using a completely original, highly idiosyncratic personal cipher.
It was a visual system, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was built entirely on circles and geometric stroke marks that no one around him could read.
Yeah, huh?
He didn't just dabble in cryptography, he built his entire intellectual life upon it to protect his mechanical and engineering inventions.
And then you add the physical evidence to that. Radiocarbon dating places the creation of the Voynich parchment precisely between 1404 and 1438.
And Fontana lived from roughly 1395 to 1455.
So this book was manufactured exactly during his peak intellectual years, right when he was already producing technically complex, highly illustrated manuscripts in northern Italy. The overlap is chronological, biographical, geographical, and stylistic.
Which leaves us with the obvious problem.
Right, the elephant in the room.
If we know who wrote it, and we have his other coded works, why couldn't the AI read this specific book?
Exactly.
And this is where R.Lüth's paper just gets absolutely brilliant. Lüth realized The data the AI was analyzing was inherently corrupted.
How so?
Well, previous researchers relied on this standard scientific transcription system called EVA.
EVA, yeah.
And EVA was designed to turn the weird, looping, handwritten shapes of the Voynich into standard digital text, basically ASCII characters.
So the computers could ingest the data.
Right. But in doing so, they stripped out the actual geometry of the letters. They forced a bizarre 15th century visual cipher into a 21st century digital mold.
Ah, so they effectively smoothed out the raw glyph shapes into a false regularity.
Exactly. The EVA system mapped visually similar loops to the same digital letter, completely ignoring the subtle directional ticks that Fontana used.
So the AI was working with bad data from the start?
Yeah, when you feed a neural net garbage mapping, it outputs garbage. So Luth just threw the EVA transcription out entirely.
Good call.
He went back to the raw, high-resolution scans of the physical pages and compared them directly to Fontana's known cipher wheel, the speculum from his other works. And when you look at the raw ink, you see this brilliant three-layered mechanical system.
Oh man, let's break those layers down because seeing the gears turning inside this cipher is incredible. So layer 1 is the foundational alphabet, and it's built almost entirely on circles.
Right. Geometry is morphology.
Yeah, look at the manuscript, and almost every glyph involves a circle as its root. Lüth realized vowels are pure circles distinguished only by tiny directional ticks.
It looks like a clock face.
Right, like a tick pointing west and east makes an A, north and south makes an E, no tick at all is an I or an O. Consonants are circles with specific modifiers attached to them, so like a crossbar through the center turns it into an H or a K.
It's incredibly elegant.
It is, but visually, it all just looks like a sea of identical bubbles to a machine looking for traditional letter forms.
Right. But that alphabet is just the casing. Layer 2 is the actual engine of the cipher, and it relies on ancient Roman Tironian notes.
Tironian notes?
This is the historical masterstroke. Tironian notes are a tachygraphic shorthand system invented way back in 63 BC.
By Cicero's scribe, right.
Exactly. It was a bureaucratic shortcut used for over 1,000 years, allowing scribes to write entire syllables or common suffixes with a single, highly stylized pen stroke.
So it's super compressed?
Yeah, it drops vowels entirely and uses spatial positioning to imply word endings.
So instead of spelling out a word, you use a single geometric hook. The paper shows that there's a glyph in the manuscript that looks like a figure 8. Lüth noticed it always appears at the end of a word.
Always.
Because in Tironian shorthand, that figure 8 represents the Latin suffix is or bus, or there's a glyph shaped like the number 7, which is the universal shorthand for et, meaning and. Fontana didn't just use these symbols, he physically fused them into his circle cipher.
Which brings us to layer 3, the protocol. The underlying text of the Voynich isn't flowing poetry, and it isn't narrative history.
Definitely not.
It is highly abbreviated, technical Latin, structured purely as working industrial instructions.
Wait, hang on. Machine learning algorithms chew through substitution ciphers before I can finish a cup of coffee.
Sure, they do.
If this is just abbreviated Latin shorthand written with circles instead of Roman letters, why did the AI completely choke on it? Shouldn't a modern algorithm just brute force that underlying Latin in seconds?
That is the big question. And it's the core of why the manuscript has remained unreadable for so long. Think of the cipher like a zip file hidden inside a locked hard drive.
Okay, I like that analogy.
So Tironian shorthand compresses the data, right? It removes the vowels and alters the spelling structure. Then the circle cipher encrypts the compressed data visually.
Ah, I get
AI models rely on n-gram frequencies, basically how often certain letters appear next to each other in a natural language. But Fontana's dual-layer system obliterates normal linguistic statistics.
Wow.
Yeah, the manuscript behaves statistically like a language because it encodes one, but the tachygraphic abbreviation is so intensely compressed, it breaks all normal linguistic recognition parameters.
So it doesn't look like Latin to the computer.
Not at all. It is not a natural language in disguise. It is an industrial protocol in armor.
An industrial protocol in armor. I love that. But wait, if Fontana is already writing books on military siege engines and torpedoes in plain sight using a simpler code, why invent an entirely new uncrackable system just for this one book?
Good point.
What could possibly be inside this manuscript that required a 3-layer statistically immune encryption system? To understand that, we have to look at the paranoid world of 1420s Venice.
Yeah, picture the Venetian Republic in the early 15th century. It is the richest, most powerful trading empire in the known world.
The total powerhouse.
But its wealth isn't just based on having a large navy. It is maintained by a fanatical, weaponized system of industrial secrecy.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the arsenal is a perfect example of this.
Oh, the shipyards.
Yeah, it was a massive shipyard on the edge of Venice that employed thousands of workers and churned out advanced warships faster than anyone else in Europe. But its internal assembly line processes were guarded like a modern military black site.
And you see the exact same paranoia with the Murano glassmakers.
Oh, right.
If you were a glassmaker on the island of Murano and you tried to leave the Republic to start a business in another country, you face the death penalty.
The death penalty just for leaving.
Yeah, because the chemical technique to make clear crystal glass was a state secret worth armies. Knowledge wasn't just power in Venice. Knowledge was literal currency.
And the most lucrative industry of all, beyond even glass or shipping, was the dye trade. Venice was the European hub for importing and processing pharmaceutical raw materials and dyes from the East, things like indigo, madder, and alum.
And we take chemical dyes for granted today, you know.
Mhm.
But in 1420, you couldn't just synthesize a stable color in a lab. You had to extract the coloring agent from raw plants.
Which is incredibly complex.
Very. And you couldn't just rub a green leaf on a piece of wool and expect it to stay. You had to undergo a chemical process called mordanting, usually involving alum, to bind the color to the fiber so it wouldn't wash out.
And Venice had a near monopoly on alum distribution.
Exactly. The chemical processes to turn a raw plant into a stable, concentrated, commercially viable dye were the most heavily guarded trade secrets of the era. The chemistry was volatile, dangerous, and incredibly valuable.
So imagine a powerful merchant house hires Giovanni Fontana, a Padua-educated doctor and engineer, deeply versed in alchemy, hydraulics, and botany, to systematize this highly lucrative extraction process.
They hire him to build a better factory.
Right. And if you are Fontana, and you are writing down the multi-million ducat chemical secrets of your employer, you write it in a way that a competitor, a corporate spy, or a customs official in a foreign port absolutely cannot read.
You definitely don't use your standard military cipher. You build the bespoke encryption system specifically for this project.
You build a vault. You write MS-408.
Yes.
So let's take all this historical and mechanical context and apply it directly to the pages. We have the source material detailing R.Lüth's actual translation of specific folios using his visual method. Let's start with Folio 1R, the very first page of the manuscript.
Okay.
For centuries, occultists have claimed this was the mystical title page of a magical grimoire. What does it actually say?
Well, first off, it's not a title page at all. According to the Lüth-Fontana framework, Folio 1R is an operative lab document. If you look at the physical structure of the page, there are distinct text blocks.
Yeah.
Lüth noted that these blocks begin with distinct red initials.
Which is exactly what Fontana used in his military engineering books. They aren't decorative flourishes, they act as step markers for a process.
Right. And furthermore, those bizarre towering characters that researchers call gallows glyphs, the ones that look like little hangman nooses.
Yeah, the really weird ones.
They aren't alien letters with magical properties. They are structural bullet points indicating a step-by-step procedure.
So it's basically a formatted list. The translation breaks down Folio 1R beautifully. Block A acts as the introduction to the material. It heavily uses the abbreviated Latin word glaucuses, which means a blue-green color, specifically referring to the gray-green hue of certain medicinal plants.
And what's drawn right next to the text?
A detailed, if slightly stylized, blue-green plant. It's not a magical herb from Atlantis, it's the raw material for the extraction.
Makes perfect sense.
Then Block B moves from description to physical instruction. It contains verbs directing the worker to observe the sample, turn it, record its properties, and arrange the material for processing.
But the smoking gun is in Block D at the bottom of the page. The very last word stands completely alone on the right margin.
I love this part.
Applying the Lüth method, interpreting the geometric circles and the shorthand ticks, that word translates to the Latin finitum, finished. End of section.
Goom!
And what's equally fascinating is that the rhythm and pressure of the handwriting slightly changes in that bottom block, which really supports the maturity hypothesis.
The idea that it wasn't all written at once.
Right. This manuscript wasn't written in a manic fit over a weekend. It was a working industrial notebook. added to and revised over years as the factory processes improved.
Okay, but what about the really weird stuff? The pages that have spawned 1,000 late-night conspiracy theories. I'm talking about the Rosettes page.
Oh, the rosettes.
It's this massive, complex, fold-out page with 9 distinct circles connected by pathways, surrounded by towers and stars. I mean, everyone from historians to internet sleuths has claimed it's a map of the cosmos, an alien star chart, or a layout of a magical city.
Yeah. But if you view the rosettes page through the lens of a 15th century engineer trying to document an industrial dye extraction process, the mysticism vanishes instantly.
It just disappears.
Remember Fontana's background? He was an expert in hydraulics. He designed complex water clocks, pumps, and fluid transport systems. The rosettes page isn't a map of the stars. It is a two-dimensional plumbing schematic,
It's a plumbing schematic.
a highly detailed one. It shows a central processing chamber surrounded by specialized satellite stations, all connected by pipelines, sluice gates, and channels for transporting liquid chemical material.
Wow.
It dictates the directional flow of water and alum through the facility. It's literally the floor plan for a medieval dye manufacturing plant.
But that still leaves the most famous, baffling illustrations in the entire manuscript, the bathing women.
Oh, right.
Throughout the book, there are these crude little drawings of naked women floating in pools of green water, sliding down tubes, or standing in vats holding pipes. People thought they were nymphs, representations of human souls, or some bizarre fertility ritual connected to the stars.
This is perhaps the most brilliant, entirely pragmatic detail of Fontana's work. In industrial diagrams of the 1420s, it was notoriously difficult to convey physical scale.
Like, how big is the vat you're looking at?
Exactly. Is this pool deep enough to submerge a bundle of wool, or is it just a shallow cooling tray? Fontana used a visual convention he had already established in his other known engineering books. He used human figures as scale indicators.
So they aren't magical nymphs.
Not at all.
Fair.
The bathing women are simply schematic representations of human workers inside the dip extraction vats.
Oh, I see.
They show the reader exactly how large the vats are, how deep the liquid sits, and how the fluid moves between the chambers relative to human height. Stripped of clothing to keep the diagram clean, there's nothing magical or mysterious about them. They are OSHA diagrams.
So what does this all mean? Honestly, I feel a little bummed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, for 600 years, humanity has projected its wildest, most romantic fantasies onto this book. We wanted it to be an alien transmission or the lost magic of a forgotten civilization. And the reality is that it's basically an OSHA safety manual and a plumbing diagram for a medieval dye factory.
I get that.
Yeah.
I understand the disappointment of losing the magic, but the reality is actually far more compelling when you think about it.
Do you think so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We aren't looking at aliens or supernatural phenomena. We are looking at the private, unvarnished brilliance of a single human mind. Giovanni Fontana built an entire industrial knowledge system from scratch.
That's true.
He invented a cipher so perfectly designed, so structurally sound, that it successfully hid his life's work from the greatest cryptographers, linguists, and supercomputers in human history for 6 centuries. That is a staggering intellectual achievement that outpaces any magical fantasy.
He wanted his work to be unreadable to everyone but himself, and he succeeded beyond any reasonable expectation. He essentially created the ultimate zero-knowledge architecture, and it held firm for 600 years.
And the key was always right there. It was in his other manuscripts sitting in European libraries. It was in the Tironian shorthand that educated scribes used for over 1,000 years.
We just needed to look at it differently.
Yeah, it just required someone like R.Lüth to step back, turn off the AI, look at the raw geometric shapes on the page without any theoretical baggage, and ask, what is this, really?
Which brings us back to you, the listener. We've taken a journey today from a mystical, unsolvable hoax to the brilliant, paranoid lab notes of a Venetian engineer protecting his multi-million decat chemical secrets.
A pretty wild ride.
Right. And the takeaway here is incredibly relevant to how we process information today. In a world of total information overload, where we rely entirely on algorithmic filters and complex AI models to tell us what data means, sometimes we miss the truth because the tools themselves corrupt the signal.
We let the tech get in the way.
Exactly. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs happen when you strip away the technology, trust your own eyes, look at the raw data right in front of you, and question your basic assumptions about what you're seeing.
The Voynich manuscript wasn't hiding in another dimension. It was hiding in plain sight, protected entirely by our own overcomplications.
Which leaves me with a final provocative thought for you to chew on today. If Giovanni Fontana's masterpiece successfully hid a massive, incredibly lucrative industrial operation in plain sight for 600 years simply by making it look like magical
Yeah,
nonsense,
yeah.
what other great unsolved mysteries in history aren't mysteries at all? What if they are just perfectly executed security systems waiting for the right person to finally look at them differently?
That is a fascinating thought to end on.
Until next time, keep looking at the raw data.